Ladies and gentlemen, let them hate you. Let them doubt you. Let them roll their eyes, whisper behind your back and call you foolish. Let them mock your dreams and question your path, because none of it matters, not unless you give it power. You see, the world you experience isn't created by their opinions, it's shaped by your assumptions, by what you dare to believe is true about yourself. If you assume you are powerful, no one can make you powerless. If you believe you are destined, then the delay is not defeat, it's alignment. Hate is powerless unless you accept it, it's noise. But most people turn that noise into their own self-image. They start to doubt. They start to shrink. They forget you don't need the world's permission to become the person you were meant to be. Don't fight the hate. Don't try to change the world around you. Change the world within you. Assume your greatness. Assume your success. Assume your transformation. Walk, speak, and breathe like it's already done. Because once you align your inner reality, the outer world has no choice but to follow. The truth? They don't hate you. They hate the mirror you hold up to their own limitations. And when you rise, when you succeed despite their judgment, you become undeniable. So let them hate you. Let them underestimate you. Just make sure you're too focused on becoming your vision to ever need their validation. And one day, they'll look back and say, "We were wrong." But by then, you won't even hear them. You'll be too far ahead. Hate only hurts when you let it inside. People can talk, they can criticize, reject, mock, or even try to tear you down, but none of it means anything unless you let their words become your truth. Their opinions are powerless until you turn them into beliefs. Most people are trapped not because of what was said to them, but because they accepted it, repeated it in their minds, and allowed it to shape their self-image. If someone calls you unworthy, it doesn't become true unless you start asking yourself, what if they're right? That question alone is enough to weaken your spirit. But if you hear the same hate and respond with silent confidence, if you say to yourself, they're only talking about themselves, then you've already won. You have to understand that people project their own insecurities. Their hate is not about you, it's about what you trigger in them. You remind them of what they're not doing. You remind them of the courage they lack. And when someone sees you break away from the pack, it makes them uncomfortable. That discomfort turns into judgment, that judgment turns into hate. But it's still not your responsibility. It's their issue, their fear, their weakness. You don't have to carry it. And yet, that's what most people do. They take other people's hate and turn it into self-doubt. They begin to shrink, they become quieter, they abandon their goals. Not because they're not capable, but because they internalized what wasn't theirs. You must make a decision. Whose voice matters more, the voice in your head or the noise outside it? Because only one of them will shape your future. You can't control who hates you, but you can absolutely control whether that hate affects you. That's your power. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to remember that you are not their opinion. You are not their words. You are what you believe about yourself. Nothing more, nothing less. When you start understanding this deeply, something shifts. The hate doesn't hurt the same way anymore. It becomes background noise. It becomes static. And you begin to realize that their hate can actually become fuel, because the more they doubt you, the more proof you gather when you rise. And when you do it without defending yourself, without reacting, without flinching, that's real strength. So let them hate, let them shout, let them gossip. Just don't let it in. Don't invite their hate to sit in your mind rent-free. You've got dreams to chase. You've got a self to become. You've got a life to build. And none of that depends on who supports you. So let them hate. Watch what happens next. Not to them, but to you. Because the real story isn't about their hate, it's about your power. The world you see is not the world as it is. It's the world as you assume it to be. Your assumptions shape your experience. Your beliefs carve out the path you walk. It is not what others think of you that matters. It's what you've come to accept as true in your own mind. If you believe you're capable, even in the face of doubt, the universe bends toward that belief. But if you believe you're not enough, even if others praise you, you'll sabotage yourself. That's the power of assumption. It goes deeper than motivation, deeper than effort. It becomes your default filter for how you see life. Every opportunity, every relationship, every moment, all of it is interpreted through the lens of what you've assumed about yourself and the world. This is why two people can walk through the same storm, and one comes out stronger while the other drowns. It wasn't the storm, it was the story they told themselves inside it. You might hear someone call you a failure. If you accept that, if you agree with that, it becomes a limitation. But if you reject it, if you say, "That's not me," and assume the identity of someone resilient, then that insult becomes irrelevant. The outer world is always echoing the inner world. People who believe they're overlooked keep being overlooked. People who believe they're powerful walk into rooms and command energy without speaking. That power doesn't come from force, it comes from assumption. The mind is always building what the imagination sees clearly. If you want success, you must first assume success. Not wish for it, not wait for it, but walk in it as if it's already yours. That doesn't mean you ignore reality, it means you shape it from the inside out. Because reality isn't as fixed as people believe. What you focus on expands, what you expect tends to show up. So when you give more attention to what people think of you, you create more of that energy. But if you withdraw your attention from external noise and redirect it toward the inner conviction of who you truly are, then life begins to align. That's why some people rise in silence, while others make noise and stay stuck. They assumed it before it showed up. They were it before the world could see it. And that's the secret. The world always catches up to what you believe about yourself. So when they doubt you, when they laugh, when they dismiss your vision, remember, their opinion does not build your life. Your assumption does. You don't need their agreement. You don't need their approval. You need one thing, in alignment with your desired reality. That's how you win. That's how you rise. That's how you become what they said you never could. So stop waiting for the world to believe in you. Assume the identity now. Walk in it now. The rest will follow. How you see yourself is the foundation of everything you experience. Your self-concept, the way you define who you are, silently dictates how you show up, how you respond to challenges, and how you handle the world's criticism. If you carry a self-concept of strength, confidence, and worthiness, then no amount of hate can penetrate you. But if your self-concept is weak, filled with doubt, insecurity, and fear, then even the slightest judgment from others can destroy your peace. People often try to change their environment, their habits, or their circumstances, but they forget the most powerful transformation starts from within. Who do you think you are? That question, once answered clearly, becomes either your greatest weapon or your deepest prison. You can wear nice clothes, speak well, build skills, but if deep down you still believe you are not enough, everything you build will shake. Your self-concept is the root. It's the identity that runs quietly behind every decision, every dream, and every reaction. When someone judges you, and your self-concept is rooted in confidence, you don't flinch. You don't react. You don't need to explain. You understand that their judgment has nothing to do with your truth. But if your self-concept is built on fear, you crumble. You explain, you defend, you shrink. And slowly, piece by piece, you hand your power away. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for who you choose to become. You only owe it to yourself to become someone you truly believe in. The beauty is, self-concept is not fixed. You can redefine it, you can rebuild it, you can look in the mirror today and say, "This isn't who I want to be," and begin choosing a different narrative. You don't need permission, you don't need proof. You need clarity and you need belief. Imagine yourself as the version of you who can't be shaken, the version of you who walks into rooms with quiet certainty, the version of you who doesn't just hope but knows they belong. That version isn't far away. It's just a decision away. It starts with choosing to see yourself differently, not someday, not when you have results, but right now. Because the outer world doesn't shape your self-concept, it only reflects it. This is your weapon, your ability to define who you are, regardless of what the world says. They can laugh, they can doubt, they can even walk away, but if you hold your image firmly, the world eventually bends, it catches up, it adjusts. Not because the world changed first, but because you changed first. So let them judge you, let them misunderstand you, let them hate. But while they focus on you, you focus on building a self-concept so powerful that no doubt can touch it. You don't need to fight the noise. You just need to become so sure of who you are that the noise fades on its own. Most people think imagination is just daydreaming, a childish escape from reality. But that's a lie they've been told by a world that fears creativity. Your imagination is not fantasy, it's the seed of your future, the silent architect of your becoming. Everything you've ever built, achieved, or created began as a thought, a vision, a picture in your mind. And the more vivid that picture became, the more real it felt. Until one day, it no longer felt like a dream, it felt like destiny. That's the power of imagination. It is not weak, it is not fake, it is the silent force that moves the strongest among us. You don't become successful and then imagine yourself as successful. You imagine yourself as successful first, and only then do you begin to align your actions, your energy, and your habits with that inner image. Imagination is not hoping, it is not wishing, it is assuming something so clearly, so deeply, that the world has no choice but to respond. The people who rise, who break cycles, who redefine what's possible, they all have this one thing in common. They see something before it exists, and they believe in it so strongly that the world eventually gives in. You must begin to treat your imagination as sacred, not just something you use when you're bored. It's the canvas where your future begins. If you keep imagining fear, failure, and rejection, that's exactly what your life will reflect. Not because the world is cruel, but because your imagination trained you to expect it. But if you begin to visualize strength, wealth, peace, love, not as things you want, but things that already belong to you, then everything begins to shift. Your walk changes, your energy sharpens, your attitude evolves, and without even realizing it, you start living as the version of yourself that once felt impossible. This is not pretending. This is programming. You are writing code into the deepest layers of your identity. And the mind does not argue with repetition. What you visualize repeatedly with emotion and clarity becomes your belief. And belief becomes behavior. Behavior becomes results. So let the world laugh when they see you talking to yourself. Let them scoff when they hear about your vision. They don't understand. They're too busy reacting to reality. But you're too busy creating it. And when the time comes, when that vision begins to unfold, when your life starts to reflect what once lived only in your mind, they'll call it a miracle. They'll call it luck. But you'll know the truth. You imagined it. You planted the seed. You watered it with belief. You protected it with persistence. You lived it on the inside so deeply that the outside finally had no choice but to mirror it. That's not fantasy, that's power. That's creation. That's what it means to become. When people judge you, mock you, or belittle your dreams, they are not revealing anything about your potential. They are exposing their own limits. Their hate is not a mirror of you, it's a mirror of them. It reflects their fears, their insecurities, their disbelief in what's possible. Most people who hate on others are simply reacting to something they don't have the courage to chase themselves. When they see you rise, when they see you step into something greater, it reminds them of what they're not doing. And instead of being inspired, they choose to criticize. Because it's easier to tear someone down than to admit they've been playing small. But you don't have to take any of it personally. In fact, the more hate you attract, the more confirmation you're stepping outside the cage they've stayed in their whole lives. That's why people who never attempt anything bold never get criticized. They stay quiet, safe, and invisible. But when you break that pattern, when you start doing things others only talk about, you disturb them. You become a threat, not physically, but psychologically. You make them question everything they've settled for. And that discomfort turns into resistance. That resistance turns into hate. But again, that hate is not about you. It's about their own self-concept. They feel small, so they try to make you feel small. They feel stuck, so they try to trap you with their words. But what they say isn't your truth. It's just noise. And once you stop reacting to it, once you understand the real source, You rise above it. You become untouchable, not because they stop hating, but because you stop believing. You have to learn to separate someone's opinion from your reality. Just because they don't believe in your vision doesn't mean it's not real. Just because they can't see your potential doesn't mean you don't have it. You were never required to shrink to make others comfortable. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to grow, to evolve, to walk in your purpose with clarity, no matter how uncomfortable that makes other people feel. Because the moment you start dimming your light for their approval, you lose yourself. You hand them power they never earned. So let them hate, let them talk, let them say whatever they want. But while they're wasting time pointing fingers, you're building something. You're creating a life. You're writing your own story. And one day, when your results are too loud to ignore, some of them will go silent. Others might try to come back, but you won't even need to respond. Because by then, you'll understand fully they were never commenting on you. They were screaming about their own limits, hoping you'd believe them too. But you didn't. And that's why you'll win. Most people try to change their lives by fixing the outside, working harder, chasing money, chasing people, shifting jobs, moving cities, even begging for validation. But no matter how much the outer world changes, it always goes back to the same cycle if nothing inside has changed. The truth is simple, yet most ignore it. Nothing outside will shift permanently until something inside you transforms first. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is not just your appearance or your actions, it's your state of being. Your identity, your beliefs, your assumptions, your self-concept. Everything you see around you is a reflection of what you've accepted as true on the inside. If your internal story is filled with lack, fear, and insecurity, you will keep encountering situations that match that frequency. But if your internal story is rich with confidence, clarity, and belief, then doors begin to open, not because the world changed, but because your energy did. And that shift in energy comes from inner work. It comes from deciding who you are, declaring it to yourself, and living from that decision no matter what you see outside. You cannot fake this. You cannot pretend to be someone else for long without eventually returning to who you believe yourself to be. That's why people sabotage success, because they never updated their internal settings. They got the results, but inside they still saw themselves as unworthy, small, or incapable, and the world simply mirrored that truth back to them. That's why the real work is not doing more, it's becoming more. It's building yourself from the inside out. It's sitting with your thoughts, challenging your patterns, catching the moments you speak against yourself, and replacing those patterns with power. This is not instant. It's not glamorous, but it's real. You might spend weeks, months, even years building the new you. And in the beginning, nothing outside will confirm that change. It'll feel like nothing's happening. That's where most people quit. But the few who keep going, who keep assuming, keep believing, keep walking as if it's already done, they begin to witness a shift. People respond differently. Opportunities appear, peace settles in, confidence replaces fear, not because the world suddenly decided to be kind, but because you stopped needing it to be. When you shift on the inside, the world can't help but adjust. Life bends to the version of you that you consistently embody. So stop trying to control everything around you. Stop trying to fix what's broken on the surface. Go deeper. Upgrade the route. Update the story. Believe something higher. Walk in it before you see it. Speak it before it shows up. Live like the person you're becoming, not the person they remember. That's how transformation happens. Not by force, but by alignment. The inner change always comes first, the outer follows, without fail. There comes a point where words become noise and silence becomes power. When you are truly focused, truly aligned, truly disciplined, you no longer waste time responding to criticism, proving your worth, or explaining your path. You begin to understand that your reaction is energy, and energy is your most valuable currency. Why spend it on those who've already decided not to understand you? Why defend yourself to people who've never built anything themselves? Why interrupt your growth to address those committed to misunderstanding you? Silence is not weakness, it is maturity. It is the understanding that not everything deserves your voice. Some things only deserve your progress. Let them speak, let them mock, let them assume. You don't owe them a single reply. Because one day the same people who question your silence will be silenced by your results. Focused people don't get distracted by noise. They know that everything they want requires discipline, time, and consistent action. And they know that reacting to negativity is just a trap dressed up as pride. They don't fall for it. Every second spent arguing with haters is a second stolen from your craft, your health, your mission. The most powerful response is not a comeback, it's elevation. When you show up daily, when you remain consistent, when you do what needs to be done, regardless of opinion, you send a louder message than words ever could. You become undeniable. The same people who laughed begin to notice your movement. The same ones who doubted begin to imitate your strategy. And by then you don't even need to look back, because you're too far ahead. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. It's what separates dreamers from doers. Everyone talks, everyone plans, everyone starts. But very few stay consistent when nobody's clapping. Very few keep showing up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's lonely. That's the real difference. Not talent, not luck, but quiet, committed, consistent action over time. And while others are busy trying to look successful, you're becoming it, one silent step at a time. You don't need to broadcast every move. You don't need to convince the world. You just need to work and keep working. Let your peace be loud. Let your results do the talking. Let your discipline tell the story. Because when the dust settles, the loudest ones often have the least to show. And the quiet ones, the ones who stayed locked in, unbothered, focused, they're the ones who own the room. So stop explaining, stop defending, stop proving, and start building. Let them hate, let them doubt. But let your focus remain, let your silence stretch, let your actions multiply. Because in the end, success doesn't shout, it shows. And when it does, everyone will know. You didn't just talk about it, you became it. So let them hate, let them whisper, point, and doubt. Let them misunderstand your silence and mock your rise. Their noise is not your responsibility. Their limits are not your burden. Because while they talk, you move. While they doubt, you build. While they wait for proof, you live from vision. And when the world finally sees what you always knew deep down, it won't be a surprise. It will be the natural unfolding of who you decided to become when no one was watching. You don't rise by reacting. You rise by refusing to be moved, by choosing your inner world over their outer noise, by building discipline in secret and letting your results announce you. Haters will come, but so will the evidence of your focus, your growth, your belief. And when that moment comes, when the silence is broken not by words but by impact, you will smile. Not for revenge, not for pride, but because you'll know they were never the obstacle. It was always you, and you finally got out of your own way. Like, share, and subscribe for the version of you that's ready to rise.